All right, guys, welcome to building in Blender for No Man's Sky. I just made a video about downloading this and talking about it. We downloaded a few different versions and talked about getting the add-ons in and things like that. It's about an hour-long video. If you want something a little bit more in depth, you can go back there and watch that video. I have it in chapters down there at the bottom too, so you can get the little chunks that you need if you would like to go back there and watch that video. So I'm just going to go ahead and assume that you've got this downloaded and halfway working, or you've watched that video, or maybe you should go back. The link will be in the description down there, or you can look into my 2022 Blender building how-to section that I just made for the YouTube channel. It's the second playlist underneath the channel tab, so go ahead and look down there. Okay, so all right, listen, we just opened up Blender here. Now, I've already in the video that I made, we set everything up and we just did a quick build. Nothing really crazy, didn't go in depth about talking about anything. So let's just go ahead and do a few little recaps here on how to set up Blender. Let's go ahead and talk about where things are at here. So there's a timeline down here on the bottom. This is for animating, and we really don't need this. So let's go ahead and pull this, and let's pull that down right there, because we're not going to be using that really in the No Man's Sky build plugin. So we don't need it. We're not going to use it. There's a whole lot of stuff in Blender that you're not going to need. There's a whole lot of powerful tools that you might be able to manipulate them somehow. The more and more I get into it, the more I find that I can do. So let's go ahead and talk about setting this up. Well, the add-ons, so I'll put the links in the description for all the add-ons that I have. So you're going to have Blender on your, go ahead and download that and install that, and then you're going to get all the add-ons into a folder and unzip them to the Laan add-on needs to be unzipped. And you need to have the save editor for all this to be functioning. So let's just walk through really quickly on how to add the add-ons in. I'm not going to go too crazy because that's in the last video. We're just going to recap on some things. You come into here and you will hit install, and then you look for through the browser that's over here on the left hand side to find the files. I had mine on my desktop right here, and yeah, you can just tell it to look for the zip folder right here. Remember, Laan's folder has to be unzipped, and then that zip folder is inside of it to point it to. So I had a problem in the last video where I couldn't find it, and that's why I downloaded multiple ones, and that was the cause of it. So bam, we can get them in there like this. So all you got to do is hit No Man's Sky Base Builder. You're gonna hit, you're gonna plug onto it, and you're gonna hit install add-on. It's gonna do all that and go through its thing, and then all of a sudden it'll be in the list of add-ons in here. And as we go down, you can see game engine for No Man's Sky, and then there's some. There's definitely some other ones. Here's the Modify Mesh No Man's Sky utility from Laan. You can see that I have it installed in here too. And then while we're in here, we're going to hit anything, all these curves, add curve. The two main ones that I had pointed out were add extra objects, mesh, extra objects. That's hard for me to say. I don't know why. And add curve extra objects right up here. But I add all this stuff in because I think that might have something in there to help me. Some of these tools you can kind of cross over and use them to manipulate them. Finding that out later on as I start diving into what can I use to manipulate the things inside of Blender and get away with it. So we'll talk about that later. That's more advanced stuff anyway. Okay, so we got those, and we've clicked the check marks on them, and we are going to go ahead and close this out. And we go back in here and we look around and we go, well, there's nothing in here. Well, there's a little tab over here if you're gonna follow this little line, this little wall up over by this little color wheel where it says XYZ. There's this tiny little tab right over here. You can see it. I'm trying to show you guys this little tiny little tab right here. We're gonna pull it out. We're going to pull that all the way out until about this wide, or however wide you want it, okay? And then you can see that we have the No Man's Sky Base Builder tool. And if you don't see it, then you can click on it. You can see these little tabs over here. These are the little tools that you have. This would be the Laan tool over here that does some cool things. We'll talk about that later, or maybe in another video. But for right now, we're going to talk about the No Man's Sky Base Builder plugin. And then we're still setting up. So all we did was just pull this little tab out and revealed the cool stuff that was hidden over here. So we're going to pull that out. And now we have that down there. And there's something else that I like to do at the very bottom down here. I've already done it. Let me unclick it at the because you guys are going to start off like this. At the very bottom on the border down here, the darker edge border of Blender here, we're going to do a right click, and you can see at the very top there's a box that's that's unchecked that says Scene Statistics. Click that box, and then all of a sudden you'll see some information here over here on the bottom right hand side. And this is very important. This tells you how complex the scene is. And verts and faces are going to be important. That tells you how complex everything is. And you can kind of tell by how many that has. Yeah, by how complex it is. I mean, you know that the base, you can only render so much in a base. And the more complex the parts are and the more animated they are, you know, the more the game struggles to do it. This doesn't really give you an exact readout. You can kind of get a feel for it, is the best I can say. It does really work. But the big numbers that you're going to be looking at right here is objects. You can see that there's a line. There's a 0/1 down here. So it's going to tell you how many objects is in your scene, and then it's going to tell you how many objects you have selected. So it's very cool in that. So that's very important information right there. I did find out something else too when I got back in here and I was setting things up. I didn't like that this tab was up here. I've been used to this tab up here that says the objects. I like this tab to be down on the bottom. I did figure out a way to do that, so for me, that's what I'm going to do. So if you guys want to keep on following along in this series of Blender videos, I suggest go ahead and doing it because we're going to be doing this together. And what you're going to do is right click on this little border right here, this little gray line right in here, right click on it, and then go to flip to bottom. And then boom, we got that thing down here on the bottom now. Now I like that, and that's set up pretty decently, I think. And yeah, I think that's how we're going to go ahead and save this as a preset. And so every time that we open up Blender, it is going to open up just like this. We don't need to do it because if you close this down and you're going to open it back up, everything's going to be back the way it was. So what we're going to do is come over here to File. We go down here to Default, Save Startup File. Boom. That is how we set it up.